Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk 20s. We're back again with more content for you guys. I hope you've had a great week so far. I'm with my two lovely co-hosts, as usual, Connor and GT. What's up, boys?
Hey yo,
What
everybody.
is good?
What's
What's
going
up,
on?
guys?
Are we doing good?
Yeah, doing good. My folks are moving out in the next few weeks, so I've just been helping with that. So it's a little emotional, mom's leaving first time in like 30 years, so I'm gonna miss her, but
Wow, where's she
it's
going?
good for them. They're going to Brunswick, Georgia, between Savannah and Jacksonville. So
Moving
my
to the
my stepdad
coast.
just yeah, they're moving to the coast. They wanted to get in that beach time while they could, and my stepdad's excited. So just helping them move. So that's what's been going on with me. What about you guys?
GT?
Hectic, but we making it, baby. We making it happen.
Yes, sir.
So much. Got baseball, travel balls kicking up, playing all these jobs. Just gotta, make it a priority and make it applying to jobs is a job. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
so yeah, that's been fun. I applied to, I think, five? Yeah, like five, six places today. So I'm trying to just fire them out and keep it going. So
Good for you, man.
I
Business
know.
related stuff or what?
Yeah, so it's just a couple business things. Also, just, some of them are sports, some of them are more business. Like, just seeing like how I feel with different interviews and talking with people. So just seeing, kind of playing the field a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you, bro.
Well,
I don't.
shit, man. If
Well,
you need
bro,
anybody to look at your resume, I'm happy to look it over. I was in HR and recruiting, so I know how to make a good resume. If you
Oh, that's
want any
true.
advice, so just
say
if you need it.
less. I might. What about you, Tanner? What's going on, dog?
Yeah. What about you, Tanner? Yeah.
Well, I'm getting pretty excited because let's see. From this Wednesday, I will have 1 week left of work, and then from this Sunday, I'll have 1 week of work. So, okay, I have two weeks of work left, a little under that for both jobs, and so that
Yeah.
is exciting. And my motivation for now is just to get through those two jobs, and then really right before then is Cameron's graduation, and then a
Mm,
following weekend is my sister and her boyfriend's graduation,
Mm.
and so I'm
nice.
just super proud of the three of them. And, I remember how I felt 2 years ago when I graduated, which actually was 2 years ago today from
Damn.
Snapchat memories. Yeah, 2 years ago today, I
Happy
graduated from
anniversary,
Auburn.
ma'am.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. I think it's already been 2 years, bro, but
Yep.
super
Oh
excited for
gosh.
them. And then, the summer begins, a few weeks off before grad school starts, a vacation with you fellas lined up. And really, dude, after these 2 weeks, like, I'm just I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna have a
Take a
good time,
break.
enjoy shit, take a step back, and
Hell yeah.
really get in the headspace for grad school. So I'm super stoked. But
I got the hot
um,
take of the day, boys.
hit
Okay.
it.
Can't wait.
Time flies way faster the older you get, but the younger you are, time does not fly.
It's not a hot take. That's the truth, man.
Yeah,
That's the truth.
yeah.
I don't know who I. You're right, man. I can't believe it's fucking May already.
Dude, we're almost yeah, 5 months into the new year, and hell, it was just New Year.
Yeah,
Dog, you're telling
yeah.
me.
It's going by like crazy, bro. I'm glad to hear everyone's doing well. I want to hop into this topic real quick.
Yep.
It's not gonna be real quick actually, because we're gonna take our time with this topic and we're gonna give you guys some quality content.
Yeah, exactly.
Mistakes and forgiveness. So kind of talking about our personal mistakes. How do we forgive ourselves?
Mm.
How our view of our own mistakes have changed from teenage years to now. What are some mistakes that have come back and bitten you in the rear and you wish you could take back? And how some people are either grudge holders and some people are forgive and forget kind of people, and much more in this episode. So I want to go ahead and get into this episode, fellas. For the first question I have for us to open the floor, it's kind of an open-ended question, but it's a good one to start with. What has forgiveness taught you in the last few years?
Mm.
Yeah.
Man,
That's tricky.
it is tricky because we always talk about different like walks of life and different forgiveness within different situations. Because it's kind of funny, people can be in similar situations, but not everything's the exact same. In the past few years, learning to help mentally, forgiving myself for being hard on myself and forgiving those people who I was mad at for a lot of things. You can't hold on to something for too long because I think it'll start to eat you alive. And I don't think that's very healthy. And that's my personal view, you know. But then understanding why someone did something, to be like, okay, like forgiveness is more acceptable. What about you guys? I mean, all three of us have pretty interesting lives, I would think so.
There's actually a lot of things that go into this answer, but to pretty much summarize it is that now I realize that, or within the last few years, I realized that people are meant to come and go in my life. Whereas before, I would almost try to retain everyone that was in my life, which means I would almost forgive them too much. And then to add to that, the other side of flip coin is that I've also come to realize and accept people for who they are more than before, where if someone did something that bothered me or went against my own personality slash, let's say, morals, I used to get so upset and flustered over that. Whereas now over the years, maybe I'm different, but also at the same time, everyone is unique in their own way. That doesn't mean that they are less. That doesn't mean that when they fuck up, I should be more upset with them,
Yeah.
and it goes on and on and on. So I would just say, on the flip side, I've also learned to forgive people almost more in a way because everyone's different in their own way, and just because they go against something that I think, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and people are going to be who they are. You can't change them, so just
Yeah.
accept people for who they are, forgive them, and move on to an extent. But we'll get into that. What about you,
Amen.
Connor?
Amen. So amen.
I'm glad you went first. Not really, because like I didn't know what I wanted to say. I mean, you summarized like my perspective very well, which is something I've gone through. I was always very forgiving. I always have been, to a fault, with people that I probably shouldn't have been super forgiving to, because admittedly I've been screwed over a lot. And so now
Yeah.
I've been dealing with like trust issues and stuff like that because I was too forgiving and I let that happen to myself. So I'm a little more guarded than I used to be. And so I don't, sometimes it's harder for me to forgive people because I'm just like really wary about protecting myself. That's been a more recent thing in the past couple of years. But now I've tried to be more accepting of what other people are going through, not through my own lens, like you were saying, Tanner. And that's
Yeah.
something that my whole family, like, we kind of struggle with, but I definitely struggle with it because a lot of people used to come to me like for advice in my family to talk about stuff. A lot of my friends used to come to me for advice. And it's not that people don't come to me. I would give advice from my own
I'm
perspective
gonna gravitate.
rather than trying to understand their perspective, which makes it easier to forgive when you practice empathy. And I know, and it's not like I never had empathy, but like I never really understood the whole, I guess, really truly understand people's perspectives by taking out my ego from it completely. And it's a hard thing to do. It's you have to practice that like quite a bit, but it's rewarding to do. So yeah, Tanner, I completely relate to yours. But GT, I mean, I think we all have our own journey with it, and we all can relate to trying to practice better forgiveness for the people we care about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's kind of two different things where two different sides. You can be a forgive and forget, or you can be a grudge holder. And it sounded like you were all like forgive and forget, but now it's kind of like you do hold some things, but at the same time, you're learning to fully accept it and forgive. Where do you put yourself on that scale? Is it like situational?
I mean, I feel like for me, yeah, I mean, you kind of said it, but like I'm naturally a forgive and forget kind of person. And I think if I'm comparing myself to other people where I grew up and other people in my family, everybody in my family is a grudge holder. So I always rebelled against that. I kind of just rebel. I don't know why I was always kind of rebellious. And so I always hated that because they would hold grudges and not talk to each other for like 10 years. And I always thought that was fucking ridiculous. Like, we're family. And granted, there's some things that'll happen, I know, that are really hard to forget, really hard to forgive. I get that. But I mean, it's also, we were family and they just held grudges the whole time. So as I've gotten older, kind of like you said, GT, I probably hold grudges more than I used to. And it's just because I'm more protective of myself. So it makes it easier for me to be protective when I hold on to something. But I know at the end of the day that I will have to let it go because I don't I don't like to hold on to the negative emotions and feelings associated with it. But yeah, I would say I lean more towards forgive and forget, but I hold grudges situationally, kind of like you said, depending on how I feel like it affected me. Although with myself, it's completely different. I hold grudges against myself so bad, it's awful. What about you, Tanner?
That's actually a question I've never really asked myself or really thought about. If I'm a grudge holder or forgive and forget, I feel like okay, I guess I can be a stubborn person. There, I said it. You're never gonna hear me say it again.
Hey,
Fuck you.
someone record that. Hey,
Congratulations.
Fuck both
Xbox,
of you.
come
So
through.
Fuck you
glad we
guys.
post these episodes weekly.
Oh man,
Fuck you
oh, it
guys.
feels nice to hear that.
Okay. Yes. But at the same time, dude, like there's these non-negotiables that I have with myself where I do not need to forgive and forget you. And part of it is my morals are things that I think are very important. And if you are someone that is important in my life, I feel like I need to have that in common with you, or else that's gonna end bad. And if something does come up like that, where I'm supposed to forgive and forget you, but I can't because it just goes against my grain, and have such strong views and a strong personality. But I think 95% of times, since I just said that, I become more empathetic and forgiving, or empathetic and understanding of people. I'm definitely more so of a forgive and forget person. But if you do a repetitive thing and I keep forgiving and quote unquote forgetting over and over again, there's going to come a point where I'm, done. Because at the same time,
Yeah.
you keep forgiving people over and over again, they think it's acceptable.
Yeah,
And as you get older, you realize that you don't need all these people in your life. And if someone completely disregards you and keeps kind of walking all over you, then I'm at a point where I'm not holding a grudge. I just don't need you in my life anymore. That's it. So
Yeah.
it's a balance. Okay, honestly, it's a balance, but initially I would say 95% of the time it's forgive and forget.
if yeah, I no, I totally relate with both you guys. I when I was younger, I was one of those where I think I would tend to lean more towards the forgive and forget, and that's just something where I think it was more of just not wanting to accept something sometimes, but you
Yeah,
know, as you grow older, sometimes you need to accept things because it is reality. It is what it is. Like I said earlier, more times than not, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but if it becomes like a habit or it's repeated, then all right, I'll cut you off like karate.
You brought up being hard on yourself, and I'm very hard on myself, and that's where my forgiveness and my mistakes come from, my habits with that. And you talked about it was because when you were a kid, you were so hard on yourself. I was always naturally hard on myself too, but the expectations that I had from my older brother, my dad too, I definitely felt like the weight of when I made mistakes. I knew when I made a mistake and I was already hard on myself. And that's why I'm so hard on myself. But for a lot of people, it's different. It could be their childhood, it could be some kind of trauma that they develop. Why do you guys think people are so hard on themselves, especially in their 20s? Is it a common factor? Is it situational? Is it because we compare ourselves to people and so we're hard on ourselves? I mean, what do you guys think are some of the biggest reasons?
I think you've named quite a few. I think,
Mm,
the one that immediately pops up is when we're kids, we try to compare. I know for me personally, I was so hard on myself because of my parents. Because also
mm.
seeing, like, my mom was a graduate of Purdue, and then she went to grad school at Vanderbilt. So it's not like my mom's stupid. It feels like added pressure, but they always expect a lot of you. So,
Okay.
but sometimes I appreciate them because what if they didn't?
What about you, Tanner?
it's a hard question. I don't like answering this one because I am extremely hard on myself, and I don't like talking about this about myself.
We
Okay,
Hard
fuck
on
getting
you.
yourself?
everything out of
That
him
is.
today.
What? What? No
Thank you
way.
guys for listening to another episode.
Bring it on
Bye,
back.
buddy. Reel him back in. He's got the rod.
All right. I get it. I get it. Maybe I'm
Buddy.
being honest now. Maybe I'm being honest now.
Good.
You know what it is for me, and this is just I don't know when the first time I heard this or when it hit me, but my perspective on it and the reason why I'm so hard on myself is because I get this one shot. And I don't know, ever since I heard that and I only get one shot and I can do whatever I want to do, I can make this life whatever I want to make of it. That has always stuck with me, and that is a big reason why I am so hard on myself, is because I just want to make the most out of this thing called life. And if I am only getting this one chance and I'm only getting older and older each day, I need to, part of me wants to work hard and harder each day to get to what I don't know, but by golly, I'm going to figure out what. I'm going to be a constant learner. I'm going to keep evolving myself and becoming the best version of myself every day. And so that hunger,
Cool.
which is part of the reason why I have this hunger inside me to always succeed, aim for the moon, whatever, it's because fuck it, why not? The worst case is I fail. Well, at least I'm busted
You
trying to become the
also,
best me or do the best that I can. Yeah, and I'm learning, but I get this one chance, so why not make the most of it? And so when I fall
Hell yeah.
short, I get really hard on myself, and it's definitely the it's not the chip on the shoulder like I need approval from other people or I wasn't loved as a kid and now I'm trying to get my parents' approval or anything, but it is partially of like, you know, I hold myself to this high standard and people know I hold myself to this high standard. So now it's like go time. Not that I have people counting on me, but I feel like in my mind there are people counting on me. Does that make sense as well? I don't know if
no,
you guys kind
I
of relate to that. Like
absolutely.
Absolutely.
even if it's like your siblings, it's that simple. Like fuck, man, I'm Tatum's older brother, and now I have my two other sisters, Carly and Casey. I gotta be the best me for them. I gotta show them XYZ, show them whatever,
Yeah.
any motivation, whatever. So it's like trying to be an example for others, but really the main thing is what I first mentioned. Sorry to rant, but
No, you're good.
that's
No,
what I
man.
got.
I like what you said, man.
I loved
Appreciate
it.
it. And that's the only time you're going to hear me talk about that kind of shit because I don't really say why I am who I am, but I feel like that's honestly a pretty good summary of why I have the work ethic at times.
It's hard to be vulnerable about that kind of stuff, man. I
What
get it.
about you, Connor?
When I was younger, I was always told I was a good kid. I always had a lot of love and support from my mom. And there was like strains with a divorce and stuff with my family, and I was always looking for approval from people because I'm a very sensitive, empathetic person, and so I always felt like people were better than me. And then when I tried to do stuff on my own, I would make a lot of mistakes, and so or I felt like they were mistakes. But and like I said, people who are close to me let me know that I make those mistakes often, right? So then I just built this internal dialogue of I can't fuck up anymore, Couple that with this like absurd expectation that I need to be good to everybody that I meet, nice to everybody that I meet, and make a positive impact on every single person's life that I meet. It started rebounding into this cycle where it's been impossible to reach basically. And recently I've been trying to break it, and it's hard for me because I think it's just an instinct that I developed, and I don't want to get rid of it completely because I want to be positive and be there for people and be a good thing in this world and offer something unique that nobody else can. But it's kind of hard because I can't do it if I'm like drowning. I
Yeah.
can't do it if I am not actually giving my all and I'm just like doing it just to do it rather than actually feeling like doing it. And, you got to do stuff that you don't feel sometimes, but I mean, I would be like downright miserable, but I would go out and try to help a crowd of people even when I wasn't ready to. And you got to make that sacrifice. I put too much of myself into it. So I'm so hard on myself because of all these different factors that I feel like that I have to meet. And now I just have an impossibly high standard for myself. And it's a hard thing to crack. So I can relate with you, Tanner, for sure. I always like to hear your perspective on it. And GT, you too, of course. But Tanner, since I've known you a little longer and hearing what you've talked about this, it's like I can relate to that. And your advice has definitely resonated with me to not be so fucking hard on myself. So
Would you say those are some of the mistakes? They've come back and they've been you in the rear?
I still vividly remember there's one time in elementary school when we had this money system in school and we always got money if we were doing good deeds and following the rules. And I wanted money for something, I don't remember. And I was sitting at a desk in a classroom and there was money in there that somebody left. And I took the money from there because I thought that the desks were unoccupied, but they weren't. They belonged to the people whose homerooms it were. So I took money out of somebody's desk and
Ooh.
I didn't know it belonged to anybody, but there were 3 teachers that had a talk with me about me stealing and how awful it was and how I should be ashamed of myself. And I was in 5th grade,
Ooh.
and I still remember that. Like, that's how sensitive I am. I still remember that I have never stolen anything since then. Even as like a prank in high school, like, oh yeah, we should steal the stop sign. I felt bad that because of that fucking talk, you know. Whenever somebody had to talk with me about this, it wasn't just a gloss over. I took it seriously because I always felt like I was in the wrong, you know. And then when I stopped thinking about stuff, for me, that's when I make mistakes. And so I always felt like I had to overthink everything and anxiously consider every decision I made. Because if I didn't, I was going to make a fucking mistake, was going to be let known about it, and people were going to give me shit about it. I know that's going to happen, and I'm going to make mistakes, and people should hold me accountable. But I didn't want to do that or deal with that because I hate making mistakes. But now I'm getting older, and I'm like, no, I can handle it, and I need to be able to handle it and have conversations with people.
So glad
Yep.
I never did that. And that's not me trying to say I'm better. All right, let's get that out of the way. We'll get to me. Hell. All right, Tanner, what about you? You know, there's some mistakes.
No, go for it. You go
I
first. You already
mean,
got
I
it.
would say just some mistakes that come back. Being ignorant, dude, just not thinking as much. Like, just, I don't know, just kind of like letting things
Me
happen
too.
and just not really understanding a whole lot. I just acted differently or I didn't act the way I should have. But, you know, everything happens for a reason. But I think I could have saved myself some embarrassment in some things.
Yeah, those some things will, let's say, haunt you or definitely set you straight from there on out. Mine was, I'm not gonna say who or what it was, but when I was in middle school, this was the first time I was really told a not so great secret, or a secret that definitely should not be shared. And Tanner shared with the wrong person, and next thing you know, a lot of people knew of this secret about this someone. And I remember when, I guess, someone approached her and asked her if this rumor about her was true or whatever. And I remember she looked at me from across the room, and just a look on her face of defeat, betrayal, and
Mm.
sadness. And I still vaguely remember that memory. And from then on out, like, just knowing how it affected her. I mean, it's like middle school, you know, all these fake rumors and blah, blah, blah were going around about everyone. That's middle school, right? But I just know, at least in that one day, she felt terrible because she trusted me, and I betrayed her trust and told one person. I only told one person, but, you
The
know,
one wrong
that's like
person out of
wildfire.
all the
That's
people.
right. And then next thing you know, 30 people know. But so that really bothered me to my core, that like I hurt someone that much. So from then on out, I became an extremely trustworthy person. You tell me something, you know, I'm not gonna tell anyone, not a soul. So that one really fucked with me. It made me feel like a piece
We've
of
all been
shit.
there,
So
Yeah,
man.
I can
yeah,
relate to that
yeah,
one.
that one,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was no bueno. I was really hard on myself for that. But we kind of briefly touched on this, and like I admitted earlier, I'm very hard on myself, and get very upset with myself when I make a mistake. So, what is your advice to others like me, and as Connor's mentioned, and GT to a degree as well? What is your advice to others like me who struggle with forgiving ourselves and pushing past our mistakes?
Don't avoid them.
Mm,
Don't run from them. Don't. You're not going to be able to forget them until you confront them first. If you try to avoid it because you're scared of it, you're scared of the consequences, you're scared of, like, you know, what your brain's going to tell you about yourself. Like, I get that. You know, if you really feel like you made a mistake about something and your brain's like, oh, you're a piece of shit, doesn't actually mean you're a piece of shit. It's just maybe you're just feeling really emotional, you know, and so you just feel really bad. It doesn't mean that that's true, right? But
yeah.
if you avoid it and try to go, no, it's not that bad, I don't need to worry about this, it's going to grow and it's going to fester, and you are not going to be able to deal with it, and you're going to hold on to a grudge with yourself that can last lifetimes for people. So don't run from your mistakes. Just own up to them as quickly as you can and be as honest with yourself as you can about your own mistakes. That's the best way to get through it.
I love that so much because I think for me, and advice that helped me out was why hold on to things and waste time with that instead of moving past it, learning from it, but only making it into a positive to better your life and better your understanding and knowledge
Mhm.
and, down the line with everything. Time is precious. You can't go back. That's something that I know we've all heard
Mm.
so many times in our life. You can't go back and you can't change it. So it's better to just,
Yep.
as uncomfortable and as much as it sucks and you don't want to have to face it, the faster you're accepting of what's happened and you can face it head on, it saves that hurt or that regret or for whatever word you want to use later on. You dealt with it already.
Yeah, great advice for you too. The only thing I will add, and I completely agree with both of you, is that something that I've come to realize in the last few years, and I'm sure it's an obvious thing to you, is that the way you treat yourself is pretty much the way that you will treat other people in your life. If you hold yourself to an extremely high standard, get very disappointed with yourself, very hard on yourself, and hold grudges with yourself, I will say 95% of the people who do that with themselves will have the same personality trait when it comes to other people in their life.
Hmm.
If you treat yourself like shit, you're probably going to treat other people in your life poorly. The list goes on and on and on. So if you are one who's very hard on themselves and don't learn how to move past your own mistakes and become better from them, people will constantly disappoint you. You will get extremely frustrated with people. You'll have a poor relationship with people because you do not have the empathetic ability to forgive people as time passes. So just keep that in mind. The way you treat yourself is possibly the way you'll treat others. So you need to just have that in the back of your mind. And if you're at a point where you're realizing that you're being way too hard on yourself, you just need to learn, like the two of you said, is learn to channel that energy elsewhere, move on, learn from it, and keep on grinding. Because if you ponder on every mistake that happens in life, you're not going to progress ever. Well, gentlemen, I mean, honestly, this was a really cool and honestly vulnerable episode. This was a lot more personal than I actually initially thought it would be, but that was a good one. I'm sure
Yeah.
the viewers and listeners appreciate that as well. And I know this is extremely, extremely relatable. A lot of the topics where we're talking about self reflection and everything, those tend to resonate a lot more with people because every single person deals with this
Talk
on
about it. Yeah.
a, yeah, everyone talks about it, deals with it, whatever. So, mistakes and forgiveness. Another episode down of the Let's Talk 20s podcast. Follow the Instagram. Use the referral link in our Instagram page bio for better help if you or someone else may need some online therapy. And I hope you guys had a great week and a great rest of your week. Before we go, I will also say that by the time this releases, we would have surpassed or be near the 1 year anniversary of this podcast. May 9th of 2022 was when the first episode released. So thank you to everyone from day one up until now who has
Thank you.
listened and watched to our reels, our posts, our videos. It means a lot. I hope you guys like the content. We're gonna continue the content, and from here on out, it's only uphill. So love you guys. Have a great rest of your week, and until the next one, peace.